Shalom. All praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Bahasham, Racha, Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to all you sincere Akim. So, as promised, I'm just going to go through Isaiah 14, the commentary, okay? Because I said that I would actually go through this, but I don't know why I completely forgot about it, and so lucky about that. So, now we are going to go through it, and you already know, or you should already have an idea of what the Isaiah 14 commentary or the breakdown according to the cemetery school is, okay, which is that your seminary school where you go to learn the doctrines of plantation Christianity. And the idea is that it's talking about the downfall of the devil, okay, Lucifer, the chief angel in heaven, that kind of thing. But of course, you already know what it is really talking about, because when it is talking about the devil, when it's talking about Lucifer, it's actually talking about a man and not a spirit or an angel or a demon, but rather a man. And this is, of course, going into the downfall and the destruction of Esau, Edom, and his power, his excellency, okay, or rather his degeneracy that has been made to look as excellency. As it is written, it is no marvel, for Satan himself disguised as an angel of the light. Isaiah 14, Babylon and Lucifer. So chapter A. So this is how. So I'll just go right into it, okay? And it reads: A. The fall of the king of Babylon. So 1 and 2. Judgment on Babylon means mercy on Israel, and of course, an added breakdown is that it is actually mirroring the fall of Babylon the Great in the ancient world to the fall of the devil in this time. And it's of course going into that whole supersessionism. So now the Israel that he's talking about here is no longer the nation of Israel, which is also called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, but rather the Israel that he's talking about here now is the entire church, the body of believers, okay, which all that means is that they have accepted Jesus, Jesus, they have accepted JC. Okay, let me not let that Jesus demon get on me right now. But yeah, they've accepted JC as their Lord, basically. Okay. So now, and it's cool, she writes down the Isaiah 14:1 verse 2. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will still choose Israel and settle them in their own land. The strangers will be joined with them, and they shall cling to the house of Jacob. Then people will take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel will possess them for servants and maids in the land of Yahweh. They will take them captive, whose captives they were, and rule over their oppressors. Okay, so we can clearly see what is going to happen. The Most High will restore our people, the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians back into your land. Okay, and He will restore you just like He did in Egypt, and you will have properties. Okay, including the souls of men, or rather, you including the human resources, which is the other nations serving you under captivity. Okay, so now let's read a little bit of this breakdown. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob. Isaiah the 13th chapter ended with the desolation and gloom that would come upon Babylon. Okay, and of course, I haven't forgot to mention that as well. Isaiah the 13th chapter, and if you go into Isaiah the 13th chapter, okay, what he's talking about there is the nuclear destruction of the modern day Babylon, which is America. So if you see that Isaiah 13 and 14 is connected, then that means that the Babylon that is being spoken about in Isaiah 13 is actually, not the ancient Babylon, okay? And Babylon that is being spoken about in Isaiah 14 is the daughter of Babylon, which is modern day America or modern day US, okay? So now, let's just read a little bit of that. Isaiah 13 verse 1. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see, lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand that they may go into the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones, I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. The noise of a multitude in the mountain, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations, gathered together. Yahweh of hosts mustered the host of the battle. And this is a prophecy going into World War III, okay, when all the nations will be gathered together to fight against basically the Most High Yahweh Basham Yahushai, okay, and in during that confusion, they will turn their anger to Babylon the Great. They shall hate the whore and burn her with fire. Okay. Now Isaiah 13 verse 5, they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even Yahweh and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. And that weapon is the thermonuclear intercontinental ballistic missile and all the other various nuclear payloads and warheads that has been developed, in recent years by Esau Edom. Isaiah 13 verse 6. How ye, for the day of Yahweh is at hand, it shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. When you hear those nuclear sirens, when you see those missiles bearing down on you, when you see the mushroom cloud, you see the shockwave, you see decimation, the desolation, okay? And when you get hit with that burst of radiation and you know that you are gone, man. I wanted to do a video about that, that explains to you just how bad, just how dangerous, just how deadly radiation poisoning is. Just being exposed to radiation for a quarter of a second, and that's your life, man. Even if you don't get hit by the heat of the nuclear missiles, okay, even if you don't get killed by the shockwave, being exposed to the radiation, to the debris from that destruction will kill you, okay? That's all we're going to read about that. Isaiah 13, that's what is going into basically the nuclear destruction. So now continuing on, okay, and now he's going into his commentary, or rather, or what is actually his breakdown. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob, right? Isaiah 13 ended with the desolation and gloom that would come upon Babylon. Since Babylon was Judah's great enemy, any judgment on Babylon was an expression of mercy to Israel. So Isaiah followed the pronouncement of judgment on Babylon with Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose and will still choose Israel. And the funny thing about this is that here we are reading about fire and brimstone, about death and destruction, okay, about the wrath of the Most High falling upon Babylon the Great. But if you go into history and you actually know how Babylon fell, in fact, the fall of Babylon is actually written in the book of Daniel. I believe that is so I can try to remember whether it was Daniel the ninth chapter, I believe, where it goes into the fall of Babylon, where basically you have Darius the Mede, okay, taking over Babylon the Great. And if you go into the secular history, like the Apostle Taha always says, it was a surgical strike, okay, where basically it was a smooth transition of power, where Darius killed, you know, Nebuzaradan, I forget, Nebuchadnezzar the third, I believe, the Nebuchadnezzar's grandson, Belshazzar, yes, where Darius killed Belshazzar and became and took over Babylon. Okay, so there was no destruction of the city, there was no, rather minimal bloodshed. Okay, and that is how Babylon, the Babylonian Empire fell. Okay, the Babylonian Empire during the time of Daniel that took our people into captivity fell. It fell peacefully. It did not fall with this judgment coming upon it because Isaiah 14, Isaiah 13 is still a future prophecy. It is exclusively a future prophecy, okay? It's not mirroring the destruction of Babylon the Great in the past, okay? But rather, it's talking about the destruction of America, which is Babylon the Great, and also the downfall and the downfall of Esau Edom and then being cast to hell, which is basically slavery, okay? So now continuing on, the second part, will still choose Israel. Sometimes you feel that God chose us, but if he had to choose again, God would change his choice. We almost feel that God is stuck with us now and would choose differently if he could. Here, the Lord reminds his children that he does still choose us and will choose us all over again. And here you see the Christians, completely feigning a lack of understanding. They are faking a lack of understanding of personal pronouns, okay? Or in this case, just a proper noun when it talks about Israel. Who is Israel? You can't see Israel as a nation, as a people, okay, as a nationality, a heritage, and say that, well, you are applied to be Israel. How do you apply to be Israel? You are a part of the body of believers. What does that mean? Well, your pastor told you, because at the end of the day, the universal salvation is hearsay. It is nowhere to be found in the scriptures. No matter how many times Luca puts up a video about how, well, in the Bible it says this or it says that, breaking down the scriptures and making it, and basically butchering what is written in the scriptures. No matter how many times you do that, what the word says still remains what the word says. And the Most High did not give his heritage, okay, or give the nations the law the or part of the nations are not involved in the promise or the covenant which the Most High made with Israel. Okay, and that's why the Most High said once again, "I will have mercy on Jacob and I will still choose Israel," because he had already made his choice before. So now he's making another. He's making the same, and he will make the same choice again. Okay, now let's continue on and settle them in their own land. And I think I'm going to just jump down a little bit. To get to the main points. Here it is. They will take them captive, whose captives they were, and rule over their oppressors. In inviting the strangers to come and be joined with them, the strangers being other Israelites as well. And we've done multiple videos on this, okay? But let's read on. And rule over their oppressors. In inviting the strangers to come and be joined with them, Israel would eliminate their enemies. The ultimate way to conquer an enemy is to make them your friend. And you can clearly see the mental gymnastics these Christians are pulling to try to hide the fact that the Bible talks about the Israelites having the other nations in slavery. Okay, basically they're saying, well, we'll make them our friends. That's what the servant and handmaid means. Yeah, a servant is your friend, right? Ruling over your oppressors means that you will turn them into your friend, right? Those that have oppressed you and have afflicted you, when you rule over them, you decide to be friendly with them, right? That's what this Isaiah 14 verse 2 is speaking about, okay? When it talks about how we will have rule over our oppressors, I will take them captives who we were captives under, that we will turn them into our friends. Well, let's get this. Rod of iron. Let's get that. And when you talk about rod of iron, my Nigerian people know what I'm talking about. When they talk about cane, we're going to be using iron cane to be flogging, to whooping you nations, man. Okay, so this is the book of Psalm 2, verse 9, and it's actually a metaphor going into how strict the rulership of the Israelites will be. No nonsense, man. You see all this bullshit that these women out here are doing nowadays, and even you men as well. All this madness on TikTok and on social media and online. Whenever I see that shit, man, I get pissed off, man, because in the kingdom, that nonsense will not be tolerated, okay? These are the kind of things that people used to be put to death for. And now not only is it being allowed, but it's even being promoted and pushed, okay? Here people, every time I go on Twitter, any small thing, where these jakes in Nigeria, they are fucked in the head. Any small thing, he's just posting pictures of boobs and, porn and so on and so forth, man. It's all messed up, okay? Now, Psalm 2 verse 9. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. And that is how we will treat the nations, man. So we will not be friendly with them, okay? But let's continue reading. And this is from verse 3 to 8 now. From verse 3 to 8. It shall come to pass in the day that Yahweh gives you rest from your sorrow and from your fear and the hard bondage in which you are made to serve, that you will take up this parable against the king of Babylon and say, how the oppressor has ceased, the golden city ceased. Yahweh has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers. Oh, there you see right there, the staff of the wicked, but let's not, say that this is actually alluding to Esau, which of course it is, because the wicked is a group of people. Malachi 1 verse 4. But let's continue reading. He who struck the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he who ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted and no one hinders. The whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing. Indeed, the cypress trees rejoice over you, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you are cut down, no woodsman has come up against us. Okay. And this is going into, of course, let's read the commentary of that, which of course is actually going into the fall of Esau, Edom. And once they go down, okay, the whole world will finally be at rest. The whole world will be at peace, as it is written. We, according to the promise of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. And that is just it. The whole world will be in righteousness, and in that righteousness, everybody will have peace. Okay, man, I can't wait for the kingdom.